First there was Brady Quinn, then Johnny Manziel, then Baker Mayfield, now Shedeur Sanders, but this time the story ends differently. For once, the quarterback didn't get swallowed by the Browns. He escaped. Sanders watched Cleveland build him up as a savior, then got out before the fall. No injuries. No bad seasons. No failed expectations. Just silence. It's a plot twist that flips the Browns cycle on its head, because this time the player made the first move.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
And it hit harder than anything Cleveland's been through before. When Sanders walked, it wasn't just the team that suffered. The NFL felt it. Other players and agents began to whisper. If even Shedeur, with the talent, the poise, the pedigree, won't play there, what does that say about the franchise? The Browns didn't lose a player. They lost their last ounce of credibility, and this league never forgets. The NFL wasn't built for this kind of plot twist. Shedeur Sanders walked away from the Cleveland Browns, before he ever took a regular season snap. And the league? Still trying to wrap its head around it. This wasn't a retirement. This wasn't a scandal. This was something else entirely. This was a young quarterback with sky-high expectations, a name that carries weight, and a future that looked ready to explode, deciding Cleveland wasn't worth the risk. And that stings more than any interception ever could. We're not talking about a typical rookie exit. We're talking about a complete rejection of a franchise. A clean, silent, devastating walkout that left the Browns organization spinning and the rest of the NFL watching in stunned silence. This was supposed to be the start of a new chapter. Instead, it was the latest entry in a book that just won't end, Cleveland's quarterback curse. If you've been following the Browns long enough, you've heard it all before. This is the guy. This time it's different. We finally got our quarterback. They said it with Manziel. They said it with Mayfield. They said it with every other name stitched across the back of a jersey that fans now try to forget. And now they said it with Shedeur Sanders. But Shedeur didn't wait around to be part of Cleveland's endless list of letdowns. He didn't stick around long enough to be scapegoated, misused, or buried under years of mismanagement. He read the room. He saw the dysfunction. And instead of trying to fix it, he dipped. Before week 1. And that silence? The fact that he left without a farewell statement, without a press conference, without a single quote, that was the loudest part. There were no accusations, no excuses, no drama. Just a player who understood the stakes and refused to become another casualty in a franchise that has made a habit out of burning potential to the ground. For head coach Kevin Stefanski, this was personal. He built the entire quarterback room around Sanders. Reshaped the offense to fit his style. Poured his belief into a player he thought could finally rewrite the narrative. When Sanders bailed, it wasn't just a personnel loss. It was a complete implosion of Stefanski's entire blueprint. Sources inside the building say Stefanski didn't take it well. And why would he? This was a guy banking on Sanders to save more than just the Browns, to save his own job. Now he's coaching with one foot on a trapdoor, praying the team doesn't collapse faster than the media cycle can spin out of control. But this isn't just about one coach and one player. It's about Cleveland's entire identity. The Browns have never figured out how to handle quarterback talent. It's not that they draft poorly, although that's part of it. It's that they can't develop, protect, or retain the players they do manage to land. The playbooks change. The coordinators rotate. The front office reshuffles. The system never stabilizes. And through it all, quarterbacks disappear. Cleveland doesn't just lose games. It loses careers. It turns potential into punchlines. And Shedeur saw that cycle for what it was, not just a trend but a warning. He didn't want to end up like the others. And he had the leverage, awareness, and guts to do something about it. And so now we're here. A preseason walkout. A quarterback who said, no thanks, to what everyone told him was the opportunity of a lifetime. And the league? Because this isn't supposed to happen. Quarterbacks aren't supposed to quit on teams. Especially not this early. Especially not this quietly. But when the team in question is the Browns and the history is this toxic, and the pattern this obvious, what choice did he really have? This move has real consequences. Beyond Cleveland. It's already changing the conversation inside NFL front offices. Agents are rethinking where they want their players to land. College prospects are paying attention. Everyone's asking, if a top-tier quarterback like Shedeur Sanders decides Cleveland isn't worth the trouble, what does that say about the Browns as a franchise? And the answer? Nothing good. Reputation in the NFL matters. And Cleveland's has officially bottomed out. It's not just that the team is bad, it's that the environment is. That's the part players remember. That's the part agents don't forget. It's not about losing. It's about why you keep losing. And for Cleveland, the why is clear. They don't have a culture problem. They have a systemic one. That's what makes this so much bigger than just one player walking away. Shedeur didn't leave because he was afraid of the challenge. He left because he knew the challenge was unwinnable, not because of the field but because of the people running it. That's what makes this such a devastating indictment. He didn't leave over money. He didn't leave over playing time. He left because he refused to let this franchise write his story for him. And that story still matters. Shedeur's name comes with weight. Expectations. A spotlight he didn't ask for but handles better than most veterans. He knows what a bad decision can do to a quarterback's trajectory. And he knows what Cleveland can do to a quarterback's legacy. He didn't want his NFL career to start with an apology. So he walked. And in doing so he flipped the narrative. For once, a quarterback left the Browns before the Browns could leave him. He refused to become a headline in someone else's cautionary tale. He made the call that every player dreams of having the guts to make, and did it on his terms. Now the Browns are scrambling. The front office is in full damage control. Stefanski's desperately trying to hold the locker room together. The fans, who've been through more than any fan base should, are back to the same painful square one. The only difference this time? The exit didn't come at the end of another failed season. It came at the beginning. And that's what makes it hurt more than usual. Because there wasn't even false hope this time. There wasn't time to believe. Just another name, another promise, another broken plan, cut off before it could disappoint them all over again. Cleveland's curse isn't superstition. It's structural. And unless something changes, actually changes, the next quarterback will meet the same fate. Or worse, they won't come at all. So now the question isn't just about the Browns. It's about the league. Is this the start of a trend? Will more players follow Shedeur's lead? Will they start walking away from toxic teams before their careers get sacrificed? If they're paying attention, they might. In Cleveland? They'll have no one to blame but themselves. Drop your take in the comments. Did Shedeur Sanders make the smartest move of his career? Can the Browns ever escape this never-ending spiral? Or is this just who they are now? A team people leave before the nightmare begins? Hit that like if you're tired of watching promising players get thrown into the fire. Share with someone still holding on to Browns hope. And subscribe for more deep dives into the NFL's most chaotic stories, because the drama never stops, especially when Cleveland's involved. Shedeur Sanders leaving the Cleveland Browns didn't just shake the NFL. It exposed the Browns in a way no blown draft pick or quarterback injury ever could. Because this wasn't some injury-prone journeyman who couldn't handle the pressure. This wasn't a locker room diva or a bad fit. This was a calculated exit by a smart, highly touted quarterback prospect who saw everything he needed to see, and got out before the damage could begin. There was no public war. No blow-up. No social media tantrum. Just a quiet, strategic decision that set fire to the myth that Cleveland was finally turning a corner. And now what's left is exactly what Shedeur was trying to avoid. A familiar pit of chaos, confusion, and another off-season full of spin. Because let's be real. The Browns are masters of the reset. They know how to say the right things when it all falls apart. They know how to frame it. We're evaluating all options. This is about alignment. The organization is moving forward. They'll say it all again with a straight face like this is just another bump in the road. But it's not. And everybody knows it. This wasn't a stumble, it was an implosion. And the real problem? The Browns didn't even make it to the starting line before tripping over their own feet. Shedeur Sanders saw the red flags early. And he had the self-awareness, the confidence, and the agency to do what few players in his position have done. Walk away before they could ruin him. That's not quitting. That's evolution. Players have watched this team derail careers for over 2 decades. And Shedeur made a decision that could change how top-tier talent navigates the NFL going forward. 4 years, players have been expected to stick it out, to accept dysfunction, to stay quiet and survive the chaos. But not anymore. Sanders flipped the power dynamic. He looked at the team's history, at the roster of wasted potential, the carousel of offensive coordinators, the micromanaged game plans, the disjointed leadership, and realized something that Browns fans have quietly known for years. Cleveland doesn't know how to handle quarterbacks. And that's being generous. You don't just keep failing to develop your most important position because of bad luck. It's poor scouting. It's mismatched coaching. It's ownership turnover. It's fragile egos and reactionary decision-making. That's been the Browns' identity for years. Crash, burn, blame the quarterback. Not this time. This time the quarterback left before he could be blamed. And now the narrative isn't about Sanders' commitment or toughness or maturity. It's about Cleveland's ability to retain talent, and the answer is clear: they can't. And while Kevin Stefanski may be doing everything in his power to hold the locker room together, you can feel the shift. Players aren't dumb. They see what's happening. They hear the whispers. They know that if Shedeur freaking Sanders doesn't want to lead this franchise, there must be something seriously broken behind the scenes. And here's the real kicker: there is. This isn't speculation. The Browns have proven year after year that they cannot build a stable foundation around a quarterback. They can't develop one. They can't protect one. And worst of all, they can't keep one. You want to talk about curses? This isn't magic. It's mismanagement. And no amount of coaching reshuffles or press conference optimism can fix that without real accountability. The Browns have passed on superstars. They've hired the wrong coaches. They've misjudged talent. They've rushed rebuilds. They've panicked under pressure. And somehow each year they roll out the same story. This is the year. This is the guy. This is the culture shift. And every year it ends the same way. Now, Shedeur Sanders is gone before that story even started. He didn't give them the chance to turn him into another tragic headline. He didn't let Cleveland use him as a human shield for their dysfunction. He just walked out clean before they could put his name on the jersey wall of broken dreams. And in doing so, he may have broken the spell. Because the power is shifting. Players aren't just listening to the hype anymore. They're doing their research. They're looking at front offices, at history, at patterns. And if Cleveland can't convince a guy like Sanders to stay, how do they plan to attract anyone else? And that ripple is going to spread. Other players, especially quarterbacks, are watching this unfold. Top prospects, free agents, and veterans alike. The Browns have just been publicly rejected by one of the most promising young players in the country, and not because of money or scheme or ego, but because the environment was toxic enough to scare him off. That's not a PR issue. That's a reputation crisis. And no, a flashy signing won't fix it. A couple of draft picks and some half-hearted culture resets won't fix it either. What Cleveland needs now isn't another quarterback. What they need is to look in the mirror and own what they've become. A franchise that's impossible to trust. You can only sell hope for so long before people start noticing the results never match the pitch. The Browns have spent 2 decades pitching hope. And Shedeur Sanders just showed the world that the locker room isn't buying it anymore. So what happens now? Same old script. They'll roll with whoever's next in line. Maybe a journeyman. Maybe a mid-round pick. Maybe someone who doesn't have the luxury, or the courage, to say no. But we all know how that story ends. It always ends the same in Cleveland. With failure. With disappointment. With another chapter in the NFL's most depressing quarterback saga. But now there's a new chapter. One that doesn't end with failure, but with refusal. Sanders refused to be part of it. And that, in itself, is powerful. It's the first quarterback move in Cleveland that actually makes sense. Because the only way to win in a broken system is not to play at all. So here we are. A preseason exit that said more than any Super Bowl speech ever could. Sanders didn't ghost the league. He ghosted a franchise that's already ghosted every quarterback before him. He protected his name. Protected his body. Protected his career. And whether people like it or not, he made the right call. What happened between Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns was more than a football story. It was a franchise-wide unraveling in real time. And the worst part? Cleveland didn't even get to fail the way they usually do. They didn't lose in dramatic fashion on a snowy Monday night. They didn't get booed off the field after a 5-turnover embarrassment. They didn't even get to let down their fan base over the course of a soul-crushing season. No, this time they didn't get any of that. This time the quarterback just walked. Shedeur Sanders left the building before Cleveland ever had the chance to do what it does best: sabotage. And that, more than anything, is what has left the franchise and the league stunned. He didn't wait to be benched. He didn't wait to be scapegoated. He didn't wait for a rebuilding year that turns into 5. He didn't even wait for the regular season. He took one long look around at the dysfunction and said, "Nah, I'm out." And in that moment, Shedeur Sanders did what no quarterback in Cleveland has been able to do in decades. He escaped. Let's be real here. This is a team that hasn't been able to protect or develop a single quarterback since returning to the league in 1999. Over 30 starting quarterbacks have come and gone through that cursed tunnel at First Energy Stadium. And how many of them left better than when they arrived? None. The Browns have become the NFL's version of a haunted mansion. Talented QBs walk in with all the promise in the world, and within months they're ghosts, forgotten, broken, or both. It's a black hole for potential. And Shedeur knew it. He knew that no matter how many buzzwords the front office threw around, culture, leadership, fresh start, the underlying problem was still there. Cleveland doesn't know how to build around a quarterback. Because if they did, they wouldn't keep losing them. This wasn't Shedeur Sanders making a rash decision. This was Shedeur Sanders protecting his legacy. And that word, legacy, is what changes everything. Because Shedeur isn't just another rookie. He's not an underdog trying to claw his way up the depth chart. He's Shedeur Sanders. He's the son of a Hall of Famer. He's been in the spotlight since high school. He's been coached by his father. He knows what excellence looks like. And more importantly, he knows what mediocrity dressed up as opportunity looks like too. And that's exactly what the Browns tried to sell him. Cleveland thought they could hand Shedeur a jersey and say, "You're the guy. You're going to fix us." But what they didn't realize was that Shedeur was never looking to fix anything. He was looking to build. And you can't build on sand. That's what the Browns are. A foundation made of sand, unstable, shallow, and constantly shifting. No coach, no scheme, no quarterback survives long enough to grow. Stefanski thought he'd finally found his franchise centerpiece. And when Sanders left, he didn't just lose a QB. He lost the plan. And based on everything we've seen and heard, he did not handle it well. Because let's be clear, Stefanski went all in on Shedeur. He structured the playbook around him. He sold him to the media. He sold him to the locker room. He made it known, this was the future. And then the future walked out the door. Gone. Without a press conference. Without a statement. No public goodbye. Just silence. A quiet refusal to be part of Cleveland's endless misery loop. You don't need a quote to understand the message. That kind of silence is the message. The truth is, Shedeur leaving hit harder than any loss on the field. It wasn't just a personnel blow, it was a psychological one. Because for the first time in a long time, it wasn't the Browns failing a quarterback. It was a quarterback rejecting the Browns. And that flipped the narrative entirely. In one move, Shedeur told the world, "You don't have to stay in bad situations just because you're expected to." He didn't need to get beaten up behind a collapsing offensive line for 2 seasons. He didn't need to take the hits, literally or figuratively. He didn't need to be the next name added to the graveyard of Browns quarterbacks. He just needed to walk. And he did. The ripple effect is already visible. Across the league, agents and young players are rethinking what it means to go to Cleveland. Because when one of the most talked about rookies in the game leaves before he even plays, it's no longer about potential. It's about survival. That's how bad it is in Cleveland. This move wasn't driven by money, or drama, or a lack of ability. This was a self-preservation play, a calculated, surgical decision to protect a career before it could be derailed by chaos. And while Cleveland is busy crafting PR statements and pretending it's not a crisis, everyone else sees it for what it is. Another chapter in a deeply broken cycle that no one in the organization seems willing or able to break. They'll find someone else. They always do. Another project to sell to the fans. Another player to pin their hopes on. But it's not about the player. It's about the environment. And until Cleveland fixes the system itself, the outcome will never change. The Browns are the NFL's cautionary tale, and Shedeur Sanders just made sure his name wasn't part of the next horror story. He didn't flinch. He didn't apologize. He didn't explain himself. He didn't need to. His absence was enough. And now Cleveland is left doing what they always do, trying to salvage something from the wreckage, pretending it's all part of some long-term vision, when deep down, they know they've been exposed yet again. So where does this leave the Browns? Nowhere new. Back in the wilderness. Still searching for the quarterback who will finally turn it around. Still trying to convince the world that they've changed when all the evidence says otherwise. But for Shedeur? This is a statement that will follow him, not in a bad way but as the move that shifted the conversation around young quarterbacks and toxic systems. He left a losing situation, and that decision may end up being the smartest move of his entire career. And if the Browns are smart, they'll stop blaming players and start taking a long, hard look in the mirror. Because at some point they have to realize, it's not the quarterbacks. It's them. There's one thing you can't deny anymore. Cleveland didn't lose Shedeur Sanders. The Browns pushed him away. Not with words. Not with actions. With the entire weight of their legacy. Because when a franchise has built its identity on fumbling quarterback after quarterback, when it's earned a reputation as the Bermuda Triangle for elite talent, and when it can't go 5 years without a full-blown front office reset, what exactly was Shedeur supposed to stay for? Oh, That word's been weaponized in Cleveland for years. Every draft pick is framed as hope. Every coaching hire. Every scheme shift. But that hope never turns into results. It turns into excuses. And Shedeur saw through all of it. He saw the doomed history, the dysfunction packaged as progress, the pressure they were already putting on his shoulders before he even took a live snap. And he made a rare, brutal, necessary decision. He refused to be their next sacrifice. That's not ego. That's awareness. He didn't owe Cleveland his potential. He didn't owe them years of damage control and disappointment just because they handed him a jersey. And most importantly, he didn't owe them his silence once things started going off the rails. But he gave them silence anyway. Not out of respect, but out of control. Power. Because in walking away without saying a word, Shedeur controlled the story without ever needing to speak. The league saw it. The fans felt it. The Browns, panicking in their own echo chamber, still don't know what hit them. And now they're back in familiar territory. Abandoned by talent, stuck with questions, and clinging to whatever scraps of optimism they can find before the season begins. Except this time it feels different. This time the fans are tired, not just of losing but of being lied to. Told it's a new era when it's the same playbook. Told it's a new quarterback when it's just another placeholder. And Shedeur Sanders? He didn't stick around long enough to be the next face on the poster. He left before they could frame him for the failure he never caused. That's not quitting. That's strategy. So now we wait. To see how the Browns spin this. To see what player they scramble to bring in next. To see how long they can keep pretending like everything's fine. But if one thing's clear, it's this. The smartest quarterback decision Cleveland has seen in 2 decades was the one who left before it was too late. So what's next? Who's left that's even willing to take the job? Let us know below. Like if you've watched this same story repeat itself. Share with someone still trying to make sense of it. And subscribe for more breakdowns from the front lines of NFL dysfunction. Because with Cleveland, the drama's not ending anytime soon.